In our sabermetrics track in this module, we're going to cover some of the fundamentals of sabermetrics. And we're going to frame it around the problem with batting average, looking at various hitting metrics. But first, some basic baseball knowledge. There are many outcomes that happen when a batter steps into the batter's box to start their at-bat. There can be hits, and those are categorized as singles, doubles, triples, and home runs. There can be various outs, and I'm separating them out for a reason. Some outs are sacrifice hits. We sometimes call those sacrifice bunts, and the notation for that is here. That's SH. There's sacrifice flies, another category of out, abbreviated SF. And there are many other types of outs. Grounders that are fielded by the fielders. Fly balls or pop-ups which are caught by fielders. Outs is certainly a very common outcome when a batter steps into the batter's box for their turn at bat. Another thing that can happen is the batter can reach base on an error by one of the fielders. And another outcome is they reach base based on the decision of the fielders, either the fielder's choice or a force out. The fielders are attempting to make a play on a runner as opposed to the batter. So the batter can make it to first because the fielders choose to try to make a play on a runner. They can also walk. These are both intentional walks that the defense decides to let the batter get on base, and then unintentional walks when they weren't attempting to let the batter just get on base. They can also make it to first on a hit by pitch, and then there's also defensive interference. So these are various outcomes. I want to categorize them in a certain way. There's one other statistic very commonly used in baseball called the at-bat, and this is distinguished from another statistic called the plate appearance. So at-bats and plate appearances are different. Now, an at-bat is counted when you reach by a hit. So here are, I'm going to indicate with a blue star, the outcomes that are added into the at-bat. So I'll put another blue star here just to know that they're connected. So when the batter makes a hit, the batter reaches on an error. That's another category of an at-bat. When there's a fielder's choice, so this one also, and just this type of out. Okay, the sacrifice hits and sacrifice flies don't count as at-bats. But hits, outs that aren't sacrifices, reaching base on an error, and a fielder's choice, in other words, a play made on a runner. Those four categories here, those four sets of outcomes are summed together to make the total at-bats. So again, at-bats are hits, outs that aren't sacrifices, reaching base on an error, and fielders' choices or force outs, plays made on a runner. Now next, plate appearances are hits, outs of all kinds, reaching base on an error, fielder's choice, walks, hits by pitches, and defensive indifference. Now, these are just the definitions, and we have to make sure we understand the difference between at-bats and plate appearances. But I want to talk about this statistic here, batting average, because that's the whole point of this little segment. What's the problem with batting average? Well, batting average is defined as hits, this statistic here, hits divided by at-bats, this statistic here. So hits divided by at-bats is what's called batting average. And it determines what's known as the batting title. Every year, Major League Baseball gives out the batting title to the player with the best batting average, as long as they have a certain number of plate appearances. They need 3.1 plate appearances for every game played by that team. So 3.1 plate appearances, if the team plays 162 games, that's the number of plate appearances required for qualifying for the batting title. Let's do some more fundamental baseball work here. What is the currency of the game? What really matters in the game of baseball? Well, what really matters in the game of baseball is runs. And this should be obvious, but it's good to score runs if you're a team, and it's good to prevent the other team from scoring runs. Now, next week in Module 3, we'll talk a lot about this idea of how runs are related to wins. But when we're talking about hitting metrics, when we're talking about measuring offense and various hitting metrics that are out there, like batting average, which we just defined, we have to talk about how well these statistics, these numbers, like batting average, represent this idea of scoring runs for your offense. So we have to get to the point where we're relating the runs scored by the offense and various indicators, like batting average, various hitting metrics that represent the ability to score runs. In the next video segment, we're going to introduce to you how sabermetricians analyze hitting metrics so that they really understand whether they really represent this key idea of contributing to the offense of the team to help win games. The whole idea is to win, and the whole idea of your offense is to score runs. So how do we measure that well? You'll see that in the next segment.